Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Nope Nap Narp, and today, what remains of Edith Finch? Very funny. No, come on guys, it's not that Finch. Bring up the right picture, come on. Are you kidding me? You think that's the Finch we're talking about? No! Okay, yes, that Finch, thank you. Sheesh. What Remains of Edith Finch is a 2017 interactive story game, and it blew the minds of many people who played it upon release, and it was praised heavily for how it meshed storytelling and gameplay together so creatively. The story details the lives of the Finches, a family who believes they are living with a curse, as many members have died in tragic accidents and often at early ages. Now, I highly recommend you play the game before watching this video because, spoilers, duh. Trust me, if you haven't played the game, it's worth a purchase, it's relatively cheap, and it really won't take you long to complete. This video can wait. But in this episode of Psychology of Gaming, I want to take a closer look at the Finch family, and how two principles of psychology, scapegoat theory and confirmation bias, as well as a little bit of negligence, are the real culprits behind the so-called Finch Family Curse. Before I talk more about the real curse of the Finch family, it's important that we first recap what happens in the game. You play as Edith Finch, a 19-year-old girl who is the last living family member of the Finch family. While playing, you learn about the current and 3 previous generations of the Finch family and how each member died in tragic events. You also learn that Edith's great-grandmother, Edie, believed that the family suffered from a curse that explains why so many members of the family died early and in uncommon ways. Edie spends her whole life sharing the story of the Finch family curse with other family members as well as with the media to some degree. It is implied that Edie speaks of the curse so often that it is ingrained into the thoughts of each new family member that was being born. As you play through the game, you see this so-called curse in action as you experience how each family member tragically died, whether it's Molly, who ate poisonous berries, Walter, who was hit by a train, Sam, who was bucked off a mountain by a deer, or Gregory, who drowned as an infant, amongst many others. The only one who seems to avoid the curse is, of course, Edie, as she lives into old age and is believed to have died of natural causes. Her death comes when the Finch family household becomes completely vacated, and she no longer has anyone to share the story of the curse with. After experiencing all the deceased family members' stories, it is revealed that Edith died during childbirth, and now only her son remains. The stories you experience were written down by Edith so that her son could know his ancestry. Now, I left out some plot points there, but they aren't completely relative for this video. The most important thing to note is that the Finch family believes that they suffer from a curse, and that the idea of said curse has been reinforced by great-grandmother Edie after each family member's death. Of course, through multiple playthroughs and some critical thinking, you begin to realize that there really is no curse. The curse is a made-up concept that Edie uses to explain away bad luck, and more relevant, to explain away the family's negligence. Now, negligence is defined as the failure to take proper care and safety precautions while doing just about anything. This is the true curse of the Finch family, not some mystic or magic-based curse, but instead the inability to think critically about the safety of themselves and for their children. I mean, think about it. Almost all of the deaths in this game stem from this one issue. Molly's parents don't feed her dinner one night, and it leads to her eating poisonous berries to relieve her hunger. Calvin's death occurs when he flies off a swing set that has been built way too close to a giant cliff. Walter is crushed by a train, but only is in that situation because he spent 30 years of his life locked away in order to avoid dying from the curse. And of course, in my opinion, the most heartbreaking death of all, baby Gregory drowns when he is left unattended in the bathtub. All of these deaths, and many others in the game, are examples of negligence at work. That is the true curse of the Finch family. So if negligence is obviously what is causing so many family members to die, why isn't this issue ever addressed? And why does Edie believe that the curse is mystical in nature instead of some issue within her family? Well, to better understand the answers to these questions, we need to take a look at this using a few principles of psychology: scapegoat theory and confirmation bias. Let's start with the former. In psychology, scapegoat theory is defined as the human tendency to blame someone or something for one's own problems as an alternative to accepting blame and coinciding feelings of guilt or shame. This is exactly what Edie is doing to try to explain her family's misfortune, and her persistence in supporting this belief is what ingrains it into each child born into the family. It is made clear in cutscenes that Edie has shared all the deaths in the family with each new child that was born, and growing up with this idea of a curse doesn't address the root of the issue: negligence among the Finch family, starting way back with Edie and Sven. Think about how traumatic it must have been for Edie to lose her father, her husband, and throughout her life, all 5 of her children, 3 of whom died before even turning 17. The overwhelming amount of guilt and shame Edie must feel would cripple a person mentally and socially, and therefore, as a coping technique, her brain tries to make sense of her situation by finding something else to blame. And in this situation, as we see, the solution for Edie is to embrace the idea of a family curse. The curse is her scapegoat. It takes the blame and allows for her conscious mind to be at peace with itself. Sometime after losing the first few family members, Edie creates the idea of a curse, and to avoid the sensations of guilt, she doubles down on the concept of the cursed Finch family and begins to share this with each new member of the family. She justifies it in her own mind, and that belief is strengthened when she is able to absorb her whole family into thinking along the same lines as she does. With the idea of a family curse in mind, the real issues of negligent parenting and a serious lack of self-preservation go unaddressed and therefore continue on within each new generation of the Finch family. And that brings us to the second psychological concept I want to talk about: the idea of confirmation bias. In psychology, confirmation bias is a tendency in human nature in which we are more likely to believe things that coincide with the beliefs that we already have, while we are more likely to ignore evidence that contradicts what we already believe. In other words, it's our tendency to only accept information that confirms what we already believe. For example, say for instance that a man believes in the idea of strict gun control. When he hears stories about mass shootings, he uses that as evidence for confirmation of his beliefs. Even when reading a story about a mass shooting that was only stopped when a legal gun carrier shot the perpetrator, the man will still be likely to twist the story, saying that it all wouldn't have happened if there had been better gun control in the first place. He reworks the story to align with the beliefs that he already holds. Edie and her family are no different. Once the Finches have the idea of a family curse fully implanted into their subconscious and conscious mind, they believe to reaffirm that belief with each new death that the family experiences. As Edie loses more and more family members to negligence, her willingness to ignore that issue and instead support her scapegoat curse increases. And this doesn't happen only with Edie, it also occurs across the entire family. It is a clear as day example of confirmation bias in action. Each new death gets blamed on the curse, as if each death were completely unavoidable, when in fact, with better parenting and safety precautions, almost every death could have been prevented. But instead, the Finches doubled down on the idea of a curse, all except for Dawn, of course, who happens to be Edith's mom. She resists the idea of the curse, even after watching her own father die, and quite early in the game, it is revealed that Dawn was the one who sealed all the doors up, therefore preventing the stories from being told and continued. The story's biggest conflict comes when Edie insists on telling Edith the stories of her fallen ancestors and more about the nature of the curse, while Dawn wants Edith to grow up without knowing what happened. Dawn even takes Edith away from the house to keep her in the dark on the details, and in the most tragic twist of fate, Dawn and Edith both lose their lives to medical causes, not parental negligence. Before passing though, Edith is able to learn all of her family's history and record it all for her son to read, because he is now, quite literally, all that remains of Edith Finch. And that brings us to the end of today's video. I know this one was kind of a quickie, but thank you so much for watching. If you like this kind of video, I bet you'll like my 3 earlier videos in the series, so be sure to check them out. And if not, well, that's okay too. Not really, I'm desperate. Please go do it. Just click. It's one little click. It won't hurt you. Okay, great job. Thank you. Please leave a like if you enjoyed the video. Consider subscribing for more. Leave your thoughts in the comments below. And as always, have a nice day and take care.